This is Pratishtha, your IELTS trainer, and I hope everyone is doing great. Last time we did a little bit of writing, but in this session we are going to focus more on speaking. So we will be discussing some of these speaking tasks that we get in IELTS, especially the second task, which is a monologue that most people struggle with. You have to prepare, usually in a monologue, you have to speak for about 2 minutes, but I would really suggest prepare something that you can speak for like at least 3 to 4 minutes, right? So, with this being said, let me just share my screen and we will move forward. So, here. So, let's first take an overview of what we are going to talk about in this lesson, right? We are going to do the IELTS speaking, which is IELTS speaking part 2. So in this session, we'll explore strategies for preparing and delivering a strong part 2 response, which is your monologue, discuss how to organize your ideas within a given time, practice with cue cards to improve fluency and coherence. So we will have some cue cards. We will have some, uh, I guess, 3 activities prepared and learn tips for handling unexpected topics confidently. So there are going to be some tips, for if you get a like a topic which you don't know about, you know nothing about, right? So we will practice that as well. So what is the IELTS speaking part 2? IELTS speaking part 2 is often called the long turn, right? So long turn basically means that you are going to speak for the longer time. You will be given a cue card with a topic and you will need to speak about it for 12 minutes. It's actually not 12 minutes, it's actually like 2 or 3 minutes. You will have 1 minute to prepare your response before you begin speaking, right? So, I mean, this whole activity can be about 12 minutes, but mostly it's just 2 to 3 minutes that you have to prepare for. Um, so cue card basically means that they will tell you what all you should cover, but it does not mean that um, it will tell you everything, right? So it will tell you that, for example, describe a meeting with a friend. So the cue would be, where did you go? What did you do? Um, what did you wear? Just for an example, how was the weather? So these 3 to 4 cues would be given to you, but for 2 minutes, you have to add extra details. So go into as much as details as possible, right? You don't really have to think about where did you go. The first thing that comes to your mind, just say it. The goal is to provide a structured, fluent, and coherent response. This part assesses your ability to expand on a topic and organize your thoughts clearly. So, how to structure your, I would say, responses, briefly introduce the topic, right? So, always start with a little bit of an introduction. I'd like to talk about, or thank you for giving me this time to talk about blah, blah, blah. And then you have the body. So you expand on the main points mentioned in the cue card, provide examples and details. Always make sure you're providing some sort of examples. Make sure you're getting into the details here because that will just, extend your time a little bit more. Finally, the when you when you have reached that mark, the examiner will give you some sort of intimation that now it's time. So you would just sort of start summarizing, right? So start summarizing and just conclude your speaking. Um, that's pretty much it. So now let's take a sample cue card. So describe a memorable trip that you have taken. You should say where you went, who you went with, and what did you do there. So where you went, so describe the place in detail. Who you went with, describe the person, your relationship with them, etc. And what did you do there? Describe all the activities. Right, and explain why this trip was memorable. So you need to also be able to tell this trip was memorable because, right? Now, so here we are stating that one of the most memorable trips I have taken was a journey to Banff National Park in Alberta, Canada. I went there with a group of close friends last summer. So I have talked about where I went, when did I go, with who did I go, and it was an incredible adventure that I still often think about. Right? So this is like an introduction. We chose Banff because of its stunning natural beauty and the variety of outdoor activities available. The trip lasted for about a week and we stayed in a cozy cabin near the town of Banff. Each day, we set out to explore different parts of the national park. We hiked up to Lake Louise, which was absolutely breathtaking, and its turquoise waters surrounded by towering snow-capped mountains. We also visited Moraine Lake, which was equally impressive and offered a peaceful environment for kayaking, right? So we talked about first place that we went there, second place that we went there, the activities that we did there. In addition to hiking and kayaking, we also tried some more adventurous activities like white water rafting along the Kicking Horse River, which was exhilarating. We even took a gondola ride up to Sulphur Mountain, where we enjoyed panoramic views of Canadian Rockies. This trip was memorable not just because of the incredible scenery and activities, but also because it was a great bonding experience with my friends. We all worked together to plan the trip, and sharing those adventures brought us closer. Plus, being surrounded by nature allowed me to disconnect from the hustle and bustle of daily life and appreciate the beauty of the natural world. Overall, the combination of spectacular landscapes, outdoor activities, and quality time with friends made this trip unforgettable. I would love to visit Banff again someday. So, again, if you can see, it is very structured. All the activities are mentioned here. And that is pretty much it about how you have to talk about a recent trip. So, again, this was just my example. You can use any other example that you're more familiar with, right? And you can pick any places, right, and just talk about any kind of activities that you did there, but this was just a sample. Then we have some strategies how you can plan your response. You can plan during your preparation time, use that 1 minute of preparation time to write the keywords, right? If you can write the keywords, always use connectors that first of all you did this, second of all you did this, then, so it will just organize your thoughts well. Provide examples. So always give examples that we did kayaking. These were the activities that we did. For example, kayaking. We did hiking. We did. You can see campfire. We slept under the stars, so we did stargazing. In the national park, we watched animals. We did bird watching. We did a safari, things like that. There are n number of examples. We cooked our food under the sky. I mean, just things like that. We did fishing. I mean, there are multiple things that are coming to my mind, right? And then stay focused. Always make sure that you're covering all the parts and stay focused. So then responding to a cue card, what should you say? Okay. So describe a goal you achieved. This is another activity. I'm sorry. So talking about a goal, what the goal was, how you worked to achieve it, and how long it took you to achieve it, and explain why achieving this goal was important to you. So again, this is a sample answer. One of the most significant goals I achieved was earning my TEF, which is Test d'Évaluation de Français certification, which assessed my proficiency in French. So again, this is like my personal thing. You can have yours. My goal was to reach a B2 level, which is considered a strong intermediate proficiency. This was crucial for me as I wanted to improve my bilingual skills for both my professional opportunities and personal growth, especially living in Canada, where French is one of the official languages. To achieve this goal, I created a structured study plan. I started by setting aside at least 2 hours a day to study the four main language skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Now, again, French level exam was very similar to IELTS. So, again, I could just, say that I was preparing for TEF, but then obviously put details of IELTS because I know IELTS, right? I used online resources, textbooks, and practice tests to build my vocabulary and grammar. For speaking and listening, I joined language exchange groups and practiced regularly with native speakers. I also immersed myself in French media by watching French films, reading French news, and listening to podcasts. This not only helped with the language, but also gave me more insight into the culture. It took me about 6 months of consistent, focused preparation to achieve the B2 level. During this period, I often felt challenged, especially when it came to mastering complex grammatical structure, but my persistence paid off when I passed the TEF exam. Achieving this goal was incredibly important because it opened up new opportunities for me. It boosted my confidence and allowed me to apply for bilingual position, especially in customer service role where French was essential. Moreover, it uh, gave me deep sense of personal satisfaction knowing that I had set my mind on a difficult challenge and achieved it. I would say this is actually based on a true story where I used my bilingual positions. And, being in Canada, it's really important to have French. I mean, it really pays off if you have learned French. And I was able to land my first job, which is a bilingual position. It was a CSR again, it was a customer service. That is something, customer service has a lot of opportunity, and especially if you have French, if you know French, it is amazing. You'll get jobs quickly, right? Rather than struggling for jobs, right? So yeah, I think that is something that you can work on. You can, this is one of the topics that you can have. You can give an example that is true, but you can also give an example that is not true. So for example, if I have to talk about achieving my goal, you can talk about, my goal of losing weight, my goal of being fit, my goal of eating vegan meals. I mean, something like that, whatever your goal is, right? Or maybe passing some sort of exam, or things like that. You just have to think and take examples from your life. Moving on to the next slide. Describe a time when you helped someone. So you should say who you helped, how you helped them, and why they needed the help, and explain how helping them made you feel. So your feelings, who, why, how, and how it made you feel. So one of the most memorable times I helped someone was when I assisted a friend during a particularly stressful time. So it was a particularly stressful time for her, right? How did I help them? My friend was preparing for an important job interview, and they were feeling quite overwhelmed because it was high stakes opportunity. They weren't confident about how to structure their responses or manage their anxiety during the process, right? So they were really struggling, right? And I helped them cope up with the stress. I helped them cope up with the speaking process, and I was a pillar of support. To help them, I offered to conduct a series of mock interviews where I asked potential questions and provided constructive feedback on their answers. We practiced common interview techniques such as using the STAR. You can use this for yourself as well. Situation, task, action, result method for answering behavioral questions. This is the word I really struggle with for some reasons. I have no idea why, but I can just never say it. So, STAR, situation based, like you talk about the situation, you talk about the task, what action did you take, and what was the result, right? I also gave them tips on how to stay calm and confident, like taking deep breaths and practice positive self talk. My friend needed help because they hadn't interviewed in a long time and were feeling rusty, especially when it came to organizing their thoughts under pressure. So they were really stressed out about that. They were also unsure about how to present their experience in the best light. Helping them made me feel really fulfilled because I know how much this job meant to them. After a few sessions, I saw their confidence grow and they ended up doing well in the actual interview. This experience was rewarding for me because it reinforced the idea that sometimes all people need is a little guidance and support to unlock their potential. It felt good to play a part in the success. And that is it. So, some tips here would be speak for the full 2 minutes, right? Until and unless the examiner tells you, don't stop, right? Don't memorize any kind of answers because it will not work like that. You are going to forget because usually under test, it is a pretty stressful situation. So you won't be able to remember stuff. That is just practical, not demotivating, but it's just practical, right? Don't worry about mistakes. If you have made small mistakes like grammar or pronunciation, like I made with that word behavioral. So don't stress about it. Just say, excuse me, and then just correct yourself and stay relaxed again. Like in the previous speaking response, we said that, take deep breaths, self positivity talks, do all of that, and just stay relaxed. So, common mistakes that usually happen in this test is that you don't address all parts of cue cards. Make sure you are addressing everything that has been asked. Speaking too quickly. I was speaking too quickly because I was reading, but when you are speaking, I would say take pauses. Um, don't speak too quickly, right? Don't go off topic. So don't just weave up stories, I would say, which will make you go off topic, and pause. Take pauses, take breaks so that you are sure that the other person have understood you and you have been able to express your point as well. And that is pretty much it. You can ask for a peer feedback, right? You can ask a person to judge you on your fluency, on your structure, and your content, right? So, content is important, but it's not the only thing. You have to focus really on your fluency, first of all, right? Then, second number is your structure. And finally, the content. So, in today's lesson, we learned strategies for approaching the IELTS Part 2 speaking test. We discussed how to organize and structure responses, and we practiced responding to cue cards. You can choose any two, I would say, questions that was mentioned here, or maybe any new ones that you feel would be good, and prepare for those, I would say, topics. Record yourself, right? And if you don't have a partner who can judge you on fluency and structure and content, just record yourself and judge yourself on that. See how you're doing it, and that's pretty much it. Um, After I think going through all of this, there should be no reason why you are not able to improve on your speaking capabilities, especially with the monologue, because monologue has the most score, right? So really practice well, practice hard with this part of the test, because in the speaking you can actually get good marks with monologue. So that's all for today. If you have any doubts, feel free to reach out, and I'll see you in the next class.